When Lilith meets magic, the world becomes anything but boring. Watch her cause trouble and solve problems in the magical academy, bringing laughter to this serious magical world in her unique way. Chapter 32. Honestly, I was kinda expecting this to be harder, I admitted with furrowed brows. The most recent of the rescues around a fire I had told them wasn't a good idea. Did they listen? No. Was I going to fight with them? Also no. I would get in trouble for that. I had already reached max mean for the week apparently. Alex was very quick to remove me from the other groups if I made one too many comments. Regardless, this was our 23rd batch of strays. So far, those we've helped haven't caused too much trouble, only a few getting snatched up. Don't jinx us, Alex warned, pointing an accusatory finger up at me while he leaned against the tree I was sitting in. Our hunter should have caught up to us yesterday, Alex, even with our attempts to throw them off our trail. A professional wouldn't fall for all of it. They are distractions, really. I rolled my eyes with a shrug. If they are not watching us at this very moment, then they are setting up a trap. It's as easy as that. Blinking, I let out a loud and long sigh. Setting up a trap then? Adrian snickered, in the same tree as me, just a few branches above me, relaxing. With a bitter look, I looked around. They had to have found us by now. There's no doubt in my mind that whoever we got has found us, which leaves me with why haven't they attacked? Waiting until nightfall? Setting a trap? Both? It's more than possible. Glancing back at the baggage, I frowned. This would be harder to get away from with them here. No insulting people for no reason, Alex called, narrowing his eyes while I glanced down at him. Blinking, I jumped from the branch I was sitting in, landing with a crouch. No idea what you're talking about, I hummed, gathering why perceptive people were annoying. Sorry, Adrian called with a chuckle, rolling off his branch, easily catching a lower one as his foot found the tree's base before dropping himself back to the forest floor. Don't help him, I shot Adrian a sharp look, making the both of them smirk, clearly knowing they were right, making me scowl. Just watch your backs, okay? You don't know when. A very familiar explosion went off not even 200 meters away, the ground shaking at the force while I quickly steadied myself. Alex quickly quieted the rescues and put out the fire that would have already given away our location. Did you set up any traps? Adrian asked, hushed, Alex grabbing the obsidian sword I had made. Not any that explode. I shook my head cautiously, looking around us for my dragon, who had left to find more strays. Tree, now, Alex told the bitter leads, who did as told with rather unappreciative looks. Another explosion went off closer, inching around a large tree. I strained to see anything other than the flames that were growing not far from us. I need my dragon. With the thought alone, a large bright blue glow covered the ground. The dragon I needed, growling with plenty of broken pieces. Blinking at the beast, I all but shot to its side, my hands grabbing onto its cracked body, its back leg and left wing shattered and ridged. They wanted to get rid of the biggest threat first. And I just called it to us. Grinding my teeth at the sight of my dragon beat and broken, I could feel my shoulders trembling, warmth rapidly spreading within my body, as I desperately poured my mana into the beast that was not repairing fast enough. Cover me. They are headed this way. I breathed, sweat gathering on my forehead as my body continued to heat up. I can't fix it in time. We'll get caught. We'll fail. I'll fail. They'll break my dragon. My breathing picked up as my eyes rapidly moved over the cracks and splitter covering the beast who was growling. What do I do? Can I even do anything? I had potions, but those are more likely to catch my team in the crossfire. I can't use them. Even if I could, they weren't good enough to stop an unarmed pro, let alone one with the same potions. I didn't know alchemy, my blood magic wasn't going to do much of anything. I need another beast. A smarter one. A stronger one. One that only knows how to listen. But how? I don't even know how I made the dragon, a dragon that was in pieces at that. A little help. Adrian shrieked, the shattering of the blades I made finding my ears as my gaze whipped around to find him. Of course, it was the rogue. The man wielded 2 daggers and was playing with them. Grinning, he kicked the retreating Adrian, blocking the broken sword Alex was not dropping. With a sharp gaze, he swung the dagger at the younger boy who did not have a weapon that could offer a guard. Removing my hands from the dragon, and reaching out to Alex, whose green-grey complexion paled immediately. His broken blade instantaneously grew, successfully lengthening the blade and stopping what would have been a dangerous attack. He let the blade go with the attack, getting away with all but a second to spare. His eyes wide at the man who turned his narrowed gaze to me. Glaring right back, I manifested another blade, the distance not fair enough to hinder me horribly. Alex caught it before it could fall and swung it at the man, who didn't even look at him, simply swatting him away. I was a glass mage. I could use magic at will, better than any other mage, that wasn't the problem. No. It was the fact that it broke. It was weak to others' magic, and even simple brute force. But how did I bring it to life? Something clicked as he began his way over to me, one of his blades slamming into a tree behind Alex, catching his shirt and restraining him. Adrian merely peeking from behind a tree, a large branch in hand and eyes wide. It didn't have to be alive. It just needed to follow orders. I just needed an unbreakable soldier. My chest aching as my stomach turned, sweat racing down my chin as my hands slammed into the ground, my glare pinned on the man racing right for me. A pool of obsidian rose from the dirt, panting as he pulled his blade back. I grinned, a long disfigured hand growing from the puddle and grabbing his wrist. Checkmate, I panted, wiping my chin, my other hand fisting my shirt. A tall and sleek figure without a face holding him up by his wrist. My eyes shook while his narrowed, twisting his body. He used the blade to sever its wrist, putting distance between us while I barely held myself up with one hand, my chest burning and stomach so tight I could hardly breathe. Gasping for breath, I pushed the black spots that threatened to put me down out of my eyes. My ears were ringing, but I could still hear it. Orders? A laugh pulled at my lips as I pushed myself to my feet. Staggering, I wiped my eye free of the sweat trying to blind me. I demand that you catch that man. I wasn't going to lose. I was a Windsor. The Windsor do not lose. With a flick of the arm, its hand was back and it had leapt at the startled man, my stomach tightening again, and chest burning hotter, as suddenly I was losing the lunch I had foraged with great difficulty. I can't pass out. Magic disappeared without the control of consciousness. Lilith, oh my gods, hands caught me as almost fell face first into my own vomit. Howdy, I grinned with heavy eyes, not sure what tone of grey was holding me, everything around merging as the details escaped me. She's burning up. A voice called, the freckled hand feeling my face. She used too much mana. She's overloading her core. Another voice yelled, equally panicked, my gaze falling to the side as I watched a dark figure fight a tall faceless creature that didn't so much as stop at a severed limb. No, rather, at every sever I was being pulled closer and closer into darkness. My bag, I moaned, my eyes clenching as the burning grew more and more. With some rough shuffling, I had it in my hands, insults being thrown before it was pulled out and dug through, the small potion. The one with the teardrop top, gasping as my eyes shoot open, I screamed, clawing at my chest. I heard voices but not words as I seized, my back arching as my body tensed, suddenly unable to breathe. Each muscle released at once as I dropped back on whoever lap I was on, gasping for breath. The small glint next to me very quickly found my hands, as I broke the top off and practically shoved it in my mouth. Coughing wildly, the burn dulling, my head throbbing wildly, I gasped for breath, tears in my eyes. Blinking wildly, I found two very desperate faces. We should run, I huffed, pushing to get up only for the world to spin and 4 hands to catch me. You overworked your core. You could have died. Alex all but screamed, making the throb in my head worse. It's fine, I grunted, rubbing my chest and sitting up despite their efforts to stop me. Alex opened his mouth, but this time it was Adrian that was screaming at me. It's fine. The blazon it is. What was that? You could have died and it's fine. What did you take? What was that potion? Huh? It's not like you had a burnout. You were going to explode your core. What is wrong with you? This is a stupid test. It's not supposed to be life or death. Staring at him as his chest heaved, I got to my feet slowly, brushing off my pants and glancing at Alex, who was equally exasperated. Taking a very big breath, my headache subsiding, look, sure, it's a stupid test. I didn't mean to do it, okay? I've never had mana strain, let alone a burnout. I didn't think it would happen. I shrugged, rubbing my neck, only to frown as my chest continued to throb, despite my mana having been repaired. Rubbing my chest plate, I glanced at the 2 who were yelling at me again. Chapter 33. Lilith, repeat after me, looking up at the pale man with a very similar face to my own, my fingers between the pages of the book he thought I'd like. I will either find a way, or I will make one. I will either find a way, or I will make one. I all but asked, the words hesitate as he smiled, patting my hair. Good, now be sure to remember them, for they will help you when you grow older. Nodding at my father, he hummed, looking at the book he had given me. Well, look at you, you've already read this far. He laughed, making me giggle. Blinking away the memories, the fire burning into my mind once more, I glanced at the 2 still mad and poked the fire with my glass stick. A frown pulling at my lips. I didn't even do anything wrong. I mean, I may have been a little reckless, but it worked out, so what was the problem? My gaze snapped up as sighs found my ears, a large greenish boy dropping to the ground next to me, rubbing his face and looking at the fire I had got started. A freckled boy dropped to my other side, a smile pulling at my lips as I kept playing with the fire, a still repairing dragon behind us, letting us lean against it. So, what was that? Alex asked, tossing a twig into the small fire. Humming, I watched it spark at the new addition. I don't really know, I shrugged softly, hums falling from both of them. I've never made one of those before. Not even my dragon can regenerate without direct contact. Is it going to hate me as much as the window? Adrian asked, making me smile, as I leaned into the dragon that gave a soft growl at the nickname. No, it's different from Vitreous, I said softly, my smile wavering as I poked at the fire more. Different? Alex asked, my hand pausing and a frown pulling at my lips. It was different. It felt different. It did not give the same warmth that Vitreous did. It was like it was pulling my mana even now. With every move, with every regeneration, I can feel it use my mana for every little thing. It was like it was not alive. It was a puppet with strings my mana pulled at without my permission. I couldn't even tell if it was the one with the strings. It's different, I mumbled, the stick forgotten and hands wrapping around myself, my gaze moving to the sky, 2 moons of different sizes shining down on us. It's just a puppet, Vitreous is real, it's not, is it still trying to catch him? Came a gentler voice as a hand rubbed my shoulder. Glancing at Adrian, I looked back up to our moons. Yeah, he's fighting it off really well, but they're still fighting, I nodded softly. You can tell? Alex asked while I just hummed in response, closing my eyes, falling the glowing blue mana that was seeping out of me as it slowly turned purple before red. I couldn't say I could see, but the motions, the mana, red clashing with green, the green dulling the more they clashed. What looked almost like a person's outline twisting and turning, as it moved up a different pulse, a duller and harder to notice glow that nearly blended into the black around them, bouncing between these soft hues, higher and higher. He's running, I stated, my face twisting as a sharp pain tore at my chest, the throbbing that had not been dulled stabbing at me. Rubbing it, I opened my eyes. I think I'm burning out, I said with a frown, the feeling strange and painful, but not nearly as bad as it had been before. 2 hands shot to my face in seconds. You're not warm, Adrian said with furrowed brows. Actually, you're kind of cold, Alex blinked only to pale. Glancing at his reaction, I opened my mouth, but he had already gone to share his worries. Lilith, you need to stop using magic, he demanded instead of sharing like I had thought he would. Blinking at the order, I furrowed my brows, the idea a bad one. My magic's the only thing keep our hunter. I do not care nearly enough, stop using magic right now, he pressed, no room for negotiation. I can't just shut my magic off, it might work for you guys, but if I do that then I'll risk having a burst later. No, seriously, you need to stop, you cracked your core, he stated, taking both my hands and making me look at him while his eyes rapidly moved over my face. The words soaked in as the world seemed to have stopped the moment they did. I cracked my core. That's not funny, Alex. It's not a joke. Swallowing, I looked for any trace of a lie, having not found one. I couldn't help but laugh. I'm going to lose my magic, I wheezed. I was going to lose my magic over something so stupid. I was going to be without my magic. I was truly going to be worthless. I was going to be less than an animal without my magic. No, hey, we just need to patch it. You need to stop using your magic, you'll make it worse, okay? We'll fix it, okay? We'll fix you, but you need to stop, he said, grabbing my face. With a breath, I gave a soft nod. In an instant, my mana shut off. The dragon was gone and the leaking mana of a puppet trapped back where it belonged. Okay, all right, we need to get you to the healer, no. I immediately jumped at the suggestion. We weren't done. We weren't caught. It wasn't over. It's fine, I smiled, pushing his chest as he went to yell at me again, my hand on my mouth. Okay. No, this is okay. I can do this. We only have 3 more days. I just can't use magic. We'll just have to hide. We can do that. Lilith, okay, no, okay, we won't, we'll keep going. Adrian put his hand to Alex's chest before he could start yelling. Look, we can stop the leaking, we'll get it fixed in a few days, you'll be okay. Looking over his face, I opened my mouth before closing it. All right, okay, let's sit back down, okay. Slowly following him in the motion, we sat by the fire that had not worked in warming me. You just have to fill the crack, okay? We'll take care of the magic, you need to focus on keeping your mana in. Swallowing, I nodded, closing my eyes again. Hushed, arguing immediately starting, as they took several steps away from me. Core. 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 The hum of mana swirling around my chest had my throat tightening and mouth drying. Okay. Fill it, I just need to stop the leaking. Taking a deep breath, I pulling the warmth into the small burning part in my chest. How do I stop it? I can keep it in, but how do I stop it? I can't just stay like this. I'll just. A slow cold feeling spread around the warmth, a sudden fullness of my chest, as if something that wasn't supposed to be there was. My brows furrowed as my eyes fluttered open. Taking a slow breath, my hand on my chest, nothing feeling out of the ordinary physically. I was cold. I was so cold. My teeth started to clatter as I hugged myself, shivering. The suddenness of my curling around myself seemed to break them out of their argument, as they rushed over. I'm okay, it's okay, I am just cold. I shook my head in my knees. We can't let her stay like this. And you can't make her quit, she's barely out of flunking out. If she doesn't do good on this, she won't stay here, she'll be a dropout, okay? You may not get that with all that talent, but that's a big thing, okay? Adrian said sharply as I looked up at them. It's not worth her magic, He stopped as I gently grabbed the leg of his pants and shook my head. I'll be kicked out of my house, Alex. I can't forfeit. I clattered, Adrian sighing as Alex stared at me for a long time, disbelief on his face. Look, I get it, you come from a great and lovely family, you orcs are great with that, even the mixed-blooded like you are welcome, but there is no reason Lilith would still be here, despite everything, if she had a choice, so, really, let it go, Adrian said softly, his hand gently pressing into Alex's shoulder before he pulled his jacket off and wrapped it around my shoulders, sitting down next to me and wrapping his arm around me. That's who just Alex tried, pulling at his hair before dropping down next to me and silently leaning into me just the same. This is messed up, he mumbled leaning his head onto mine. It's okay, I shivered patting his head weakly, his lips curling into his mouth at the action, but he didn't comment. Chapter 34. It was cold. Freezing. Everything was white. As if I was in a blizzard. I can't move. I can't see. I can't feel. Suddenly the white sky had parted, two large glowing eyes staring down at me, blue magic crackling around them, as they bore into my very being like a god looking at an ant. Gasping, I jolted up, two arms around me, falling to my lap at the sudden motion. Fisting my hair, I gasped, my head pounding. Lilith. A groggy voice called as my gaze snapped to Alex, who jolted up just as quickly. Watch your eyes. In seconds the throbbing was gone and Adrian was sitting up with us, confused and tired. Gods, he shook his head, his face twisting in bewilderment and disbelief while I looked around, the white gone. Almost teasingly I saw a crackle of magic I had never seen before around what had been our fire. You're warm, Adrian mumbled, collapsing back into the dirt and curling around me. I was warm. Staring at my hand, I grabbed my shirt with my other, my mana core still covered in magic that had taken form. What's wrong with your hair? Adrian mumbled, playing with the side of my hair. Glancing at him, I took the lock he held, a notable but small amount of white mixed into the red of my ringlets. Staring at it, I felt sick. That's not possible. I'm just a glass mage. That's all I am. Swallowing, I couldn't help the words racing through my mind. Oh, and kid, I'd keep that heat running through you don't want to see what happens to heroes. I wasn't one of them. It wasn't possible. It's because my mana had been leaking, I lied, the gap one I hoped wasn't suspicious. That was a thing. One could have a notable difference in physical appearance if mana was overexerted. It's not strange. You should have seen what happened to my dad after he had his last burnout, I hummed, my mouth dry. His hair went purple for almost a whole year, I smiled, my heart racing. Adrian yawned as he sat up. I guess it was good we caught it before you turned into a grandma then, he hummed, draping his arm over my shoulders, using me as a support. Right? Alex tried, laughing gently, glancing at it but not bothering to look too long. Okay, yeah. It's just because I used too much mana. It's just because I cracked my core. Taking a deep breath, I rubbed my temple, glancing at Adrian, my blood running cold as he was staring back, his face blank for all but a second. A second I almost missed. A tired smile there so quick I swallowed the lump in my throat with a smile just as pleasant. So, should we start running or look for food? He asked, looking up at Alex, who had already got to his feet. Alex glanced at us, taking Adrian's lazily outstretched hands and pulling him up, before offering me a hand. We should probably find a better place to hide. He made sure I was stable before turning to the sun and squinting at it, his hand shielding his eyes. We slept a little too long. If we want to avoid the hunters, then we should head out. Cute idea, really, Tilda, hummed a voice that had all of us stilling, a panting man walking into view, his clothes ruffled, ripped here and there, while he scanned around us cautiously. As much fun as this has been, I was careful not to come alone this time, yes. He snapped, suddenly, the bloodthirsty aura around us pounding on my senses as I grunted, holding my head, red seeping into my sight, as I could practically see their outlines in the trees around us. What do we do? Adrian asked, scrambling to push me behind him, Alex equally realizing the fact we were surrounded. My breathing picked up as my eyes whipped around us. I don't have magic, can't I? You out? And here I had thought I needed help. He let out a relieved breath, his hand casually going to his chest. Well, I guess there wasn't a point in fetching others then, he grinned, leaping forward, Alex's obsidian sword shattering, but I couldn't fix it. How could I? I couldn't use my magic. Adrian. I shrieked, throwing the first potion I could get my hands on. One that had him paling. A thick wall of dirt shot up around us, the loud explosion earning a shout on the other side, the wall collapsing as we were sent flying. I'd give it to them, right? They sure are trying, it's kinda cute. Come on, be nice, Vince almost lost more than his head. The professors laughed among themselves as my ears rang, something warm running down my face. Sitting up I found the boys groaning, but mostly okay, everything attached and what looked like only a few scratches. Oh, shut up! Glared the rogue, pulling his long jacket off, glaring at his colleagues, one of which having protected him from the blast. They've bested you all just as much as I. They've got a dragon and a different beast, gods, if she hadn't have been out of magic I can't imagine what would have happened, he sighed, tossing one of his daggers as I scrambled to shake Adrian. Alex was great, super strong, but he hardly had mana. He was bad at using it in battle. Adrian was good at magic, Adrian had a good amount of mana. Get up, get up, get up, get up, I repeated, violently shaking him. He grumbled about being up, just concussed. Make a platform right now, I demanded, grunting. His hands touched the ground and we were rising in seconds. You guys get shields and yet you're still like this. I couldn't help but complain as they just scoffed at me. I can't exactly do anything. He uses mana on his daggers. Shields aren't exactly useful if he starts swinging at us. Alex groaned, sitting up with a glare. Opening my mouth I closed it as his eyes widened. You don't have a shield. Oh my stars, Lilith, you're bleeding. Slapping the hand away as Adrian sat up, laughing coming from the trees, I glared at Alex, who thought it was the time for that. I'm fine, I need to think. I grunted, pulling at my hair, magic crackling around us. My head throbbing. Look, Lilith, we have to have the most points, it's okay to quit, we'll be okay. He tried to reason, but my head just started to throb more. As if hooves were pounding against the inside of my skull, I curled around my head. Hey. I know you don't want to, but it's for the best, Lilith. Hey, Lil. You good? Adrian looked away from the edge of the platform to look at me at the concern in Alex's voice. There's one thing I can do, I gasped, my eyes snapping open, a magic circle glowing in my head as I scrambled around to look for my bag. It's not here, I need something sharp, Adrian, I need something sharp. Looking at Alex, he jumped when I slammed my hand into the dirt under us with a glare, not needing someone else's permission. A rock pushed its way to the surface next to me. Taking it I dug into the ground while Alex glared at Adrian, who threw his hands up at the look. He'll be here in 10 seconds, on the left, I said, still scratching the dirt. How are you? You little brats, gasped an exasperated man glaring over the corner, his dagger used to climb. While Adrian and Alex looked at each other, they slowly looked back at him, who was struggling to climb the side of the tall platform. His colleagues could have helped him up. I heard the curse before I looked over again, Adrian grinning as he stepped on the man's hand. What did you call us again? Cute. Well, aren't you just adorable, climbing up here like a little kitten? The mocking tone found my ears before more curses. A lot of "who do you think you are" equally heard, as well as howling laughter from below. I did it, I've done it, I panted, looking at the circle my hands had drawn without much of my help. Suddenly, the freezing I hadn't had since waking up had slammed into me, with mana that was both hot and sharp, As if razor-sharp teeth were wrapping around me, I paled, pain in my forearm. Lilith. Looking down, I found the rock in my hand and my forearm sliced. The vertical cut pale for all but a moment, suddenly blood rushing down my arm and onto the magic circle I didn't even know. Why? Looking at the horrified three, the wind rustling past us as I let out a laugh. A shaky disbelieving laugh, warmth running down my freezing cheek, blood muddling my vision, the crackling of the air forcing them to look away from the bloody mess that was my arm. How dare why suddenly, the world was black, leaving me without so much as the ability to curse the damned thing. Chapter 35. My eyes were heavy, the voices, however, were loud. Groggily fighting against my lids, finding two arguing boys, both of which I knew, I lazily looked around, but no one else in sight. Only trees. Do you think I don't want to get her back? Huh? I don't even know where we are, Alex. We can't move her. You'll risk killing her. She needs to rest. Rest? She's got a fever. If we don't get her to a healer, then she really will die. This isn't up for debate. I've let you have your way. And she's been sleeping for 4 days. 4 days, Adrian. It's a miracle she's still breathing. Where? My voice was weak and scratchy, yet they both froze at it, their gazes snapping at me in relief. We don't know, Adrian answered, both rushing to my side as I looked around. This looks familiar. Where have I seen it? My head hurts. I'm cold, I called, yet I felt sticky. I felt like I was sweating. They looked at each other, both rushing to pull off their shirts. Looking down, I found myself wrapped in 3 jackets. Soon enough I had shirts getting pulled over even those. Can I have some water, Alex? I asked softly, trying to wet my mouth and failing, my body heavy. Yeah, of course, he gently helped me lean up, easily calling the magic, taking a drink of the floating water. I couldn't help but cough. I'm tired, I moaned, my eyes heavy, shouting finding my ears, yet the darkness finding me easily. Flinching, I groaned and turned into the warmth, murmurs finding my ears a second later, as my eyes fluttered open. To a very concerned face. I yawned, sitting up only to shiver. It's cold, I shuddered, looking at the healer who had struck me. Blinking as my face stung, I opened my mouth before closing it, my eyes teary as I looked back at the man who was now standing above me, glaring. Your core's closed off, you show up with a fever, with an infection, after nearly a week of being missing. You? Everyone thought you were as good as dead. Staring at him with wide eyes, my hand on my hot cheek, his glare growing as he clicked his tongue and stomped out. Watching in shock, I looked around, suddenly finding a herd of professors around me. Some being elites. I tried to form a sentence, yet what came out next was not what I wanted. Did you tell my dad? I asked quietly, my brows furrowing as I flinched, my arm stinging. Looking down, I found a long and very rough cut that was almost completely scarred over. Like a carriage, I was hit with a flood of memories. The white stag is prominent, sharp blue magic dancing between its antlers, crackling around the mana stones attached to silver chains. Sparkling as if it was the sun with glowing blue eyes. Yet, despite what I knew it looked like, all I could remember was the cold sharp feeling of its grin, as it had used me as a means to our world. It used me to summon itself. And it had the audacity to hide that hideous and sharp grin behind an elegant face, leaving only me with the sight burned into my brain. Holding my face, my grip tight enough to scratch myself, my hands were suddenly ripped from my face. My wide and wet eyes met the startled and concerned gaze of Miss H. Don't let it come back, please. Don't. I can't do that again. I didn't. That wasn't what I wanted to happen. I just wanted to pass. Please. Don't let it come back. I begged, roughly grabbing her arms and dropping my head. Staring at the ground, gasping for breath. Lilith, you're hurting me, she said softly, no, strained, and suddenly I had jolted back, staring at her startled at the words. I'm sorry. She looked even more concerned by my reaction. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I apologized again, this time wrapping my arms around my knees, as close to the head of the bed as I could, as far from the horde as possible. Lilith, you know what you summoned, don't you? The headmaster, the Earth Elite, asked coldly and pushed the glass mage behind him out of my reach further. His gaze was icy but cautious. I was a threat. I don't want to die. I didn't mean to, I sniveled, hiding in my knees. I just wanted to summon a spirit. I used the familiar summons. Why did that have to? My shoulders shook and I couldn't tell if it was because I was cold or if it was because of the fear racing up my spine like a centipede. A familiar summon? He asked softly, while I just fisted my hair in my hands, whimpering. The lie, the first to come to mind. I didn't know what I did. I wasn't the one that did it. You summoned a holy beast with a familiar summon, with a closed-off mana core. He asked angrily. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. It wasn't going to work. I was going to be found out. They were going to find out. How lucky you are, he ground, the words leaving me to jolt up, staring at him with wild eyes. You don't even know what that thing is. I all but shouted. He jumped at that, while I fisted the sheets under my hand. I don't want that monster. He looked between my eyes, the thought of that being my familiar sickening, even if it was a lie. I gods. Expel me. Execute me. I just do it. I snapped, pulling the sheet around myself and hiding from the lot of them and their prying eyes. Now, let's not do that. Jolting from under the sheet, I slowly pulled it over my head. Relief flooded me just as quickly as tears did my eyes. My daughter has had a very traumatic experience, and I find you all crowded around her. What, are you trying to prosecute the child? That was not our intention, Mr. Windsor. The water elite was cut off without a bat of a lash. You could fool me. Opening her mouth, she closed it, stepping away as he walked over, sitting on my bed, as I didn't hesitate to jump into his arms. Dad, it was they are terrible. I sobbed while he hummed. Why are they called holy? What did I do? I just wanted to pass my test, but I grabbed at his robe roughly. I know, dear, they really are horrible creatures, he agreed, hugging me softly. When I first summoned Urania, I had felt the same. Urania. Father had a holy beast for a familiar. He actually had one of those monsters as a summons. Have you bound it? Pushing away from his chest, I looked up at my father at the question. No, I won't do it. I shook my head wildly while he stared at me for a long moment before humming and petting my hair. His hand running through the white patch that had grown, his gaze on it making me still, my gaze dropping. You're still young. I won't make you do something you don't want to, but a familiar is not for the master to choose. It's the choice of the beast. It wasn't even my familiar. It was something I didn't invite. Now, do tell me, why does my daughter have such a large scar on her face, headmaster? He turned his soft gaze to the Earth Elite, a sharp glare in place, as he let the hair fall from his fingers, returning it to frame my face. That was of her own fault. You mean to tell me that in a place trusted to care for the children of nobles your safety is lacking to the point that not only my child has a scar, what I would guess is a burn scar, covering not just a large portion of her face, but the entirety of one of her arms, and I can only guess, but a large portion of her torso as well? He asked sharply, looking at the larger man, as if he was the very definition of filth. It wasn't as if it was a supervised incident. Oh, so not only did you not inform me of my child's injury, but you also don't supervise the children you insist on living in dorms. You just what? Let them run through the woods doing as they please. My gaze immediately flew away from his before the glare of such a powerful mage found me. In all honesty, it was careless. I could just freely do so. I mean no reproductions at that. Your daughter has shown a proficiency in potion making. She has a talent so great we've even given her access to the third-year potions lab. However, he rushed the others outside with his gaze alone. We only learn of this talent because of a potion she had accidentally used to completely destroy our eastern wing, rendering many of the second-year classes unusable. They stared at each other for a long moment, glares clashing, before my father pulled a pleasant smile, one that made the elite frown. She has always been rather free-spirited, and quite smart at that, quite the handful, he hummed, twirling a white piece of my hair without looking at me. Lilith, what's that man's name? He asked, turning to me, pointing at my personal healer, who had just walked back in and paled at the question. James, it fell from my mouth before my mind had caught the reason for the question. Blinking in surprise, I stared at my father, who turned a slow and sharp gaze back to the man, who had not yet seen my father's wrath. Oh ho ho! He was sarcastic as he stood up, straightening his tailcoat, meeting the taller man face to face. So, Edward, where's my daughter's medical book? I'm sure she has her own if James is the one treating her, she's an outgoing. James, it was in his hand in a millisecond, the glare of Edward one that had his gaze elsewhere, but the man I had always seen some kind of irritable was sweating so much I had thought he had been doused in water. What a thick book, interesting that I hadn't so much as heard about it. Let's see here, the latest and most interesting, as it seemed to be what got you to call me, says. He flipped through the book, the man twice his size still, while his brow twitched. Lilith, why is your core closed off? He asked me, his voice low but not soft. It cracked, I said, holding the shirt I wore. The book snapped loudly, as his side glanced in my direction, and slowly moved to the man before him. My daughter had a cracked core. No, I have a feeling if I were to look now, I imagine it was still cracked. How accurate is that guess, Edward? I couldn't see his face, his back to me, but by the paling of a man I had only seen people practically bow before, I could imagine. Lilith, remove that magic around your core before you kill yourself, he demanded, tapping the spine of the book on the still Edward's chest. I don't want to lose my magic. You will not, however. You will find yourself dead if you continue to keep a foreign object so close to your heart. It was certainly a good idea given you've been missing for a week, however, you are only risking yourself further now that help is available, he said swiftly, not harshly but not gently. Okay, I agreed quietly, closing my eyes and reaching into the dark depths of my mana pool. The small ridged stone was covered in hard black glass. Slowly I pulled it in, removing the magic from the mana core, a sharp pain racing through my chest as I did. Suddenly, with the pain, I wasn't cold. No, warmth rushed through me. Lilith! Came a shout, but a scoff had kept the harsh voice away. Clutching at the fabric around my chest, I gasped as my eyes snapped open. Everything around me was dark yet, well, there were gentle little sparks, almost like glitter. I just patted the bed 3 times before the magic was gone and my father's side had found my sight again. Do you truly think I can't handle a little mana burst? You should know better, she is my child. Hardly, his brow twitched at that, his eyes moving back to the man that had chosen an insult he was particularly bothered by. You've nearly killed my daughter, dozens of times, and you really want to test me. He held the book again, flicking through it. Here we have an impaling. What lovely notes, James. To think you would write half a page on a lack of mana shield and only a paragraph on, what does it say again? Practically gored, through and through. Let's see, only a few pages after that, not even into the next week it seems, severe internal trauma. To the point of unconscious vomiting of blood. Let's see, same day, we have, not even an hour after, a triple fracture. Oh dear, and that's only the arm, we've also got a complete break in the lower leg, and a torn muscle in the opposite wrist. I can't imagine that happened at once. Towards the middle here, we have a ha. It seems I've found the burn, indeed, severe burning covering 20% of her body. In fact, it was so bad you've had your institution of learning, cut into the body before intense healing. They call it surgery, I believe. That's illegal, is it? Not. I can't say I didn't mind having to come here so often, however. I didn't think it such a problem that even Edward's eyes would shake at the rereading of it. Lilith, what happened after this incident? I was called to discuss selling the potion recipe, I answered honestly. Interesting, Edward, my daughter was taken, after having an illegal procedure performed on her and intensive healing, by your head healing mage, to discuss selling a potion recipe. You decided to perform illegal acts on my child, and chose to, what? Call her parents. Let them know not only that their child was severely injured, but that you've broken the law without even asking us. Actually, I imagine her as well, then, asked to discuss the business aspect of what I imagine caused such an injury, with her guardians present and not her by her minor self. Yes? I mean, logically speaking, that is the course of action you choose, isn't it? Well, considering this is the middle of this book, I can't help but think you, with that godly brain of yours, didn't. If I flip this page and find so much as another potion incident, after having already, clearly, proven the need for active supervision when handling such a thing, I may very well remove your head. Now, let's see. He grabbed his hand. He actually grabbed Father's hand to stop him from turning the page. Father's closed-eyed smile twitched at the action. Edward, even you couldn't be that stupid. He didn't say anything, instead stared at his unmoving hand, eyes swirling and forehead sweating. A slow laugh found my father's chest, his grip tightening on the paper, crumbling it at the force. Move your hand, Edward, we are only halfway through. It was as if the elite I was so afraid of was nothing more than 2 feet tall before my father, even if he was practically a foot taller. Edward, for your safety, remove your hand. Slowly, very slowly he looked back to my father's smile, only he had opened his eyes, ever so slightly, but it was practically a black hole with a gaze so furious. So he listened. Now then, the very next day, with the very next note, here we have. He stood silent, his eyes running over the missing page before the words. Ha 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 ha, Edward, the very next entry is of her vomiting blood due to a poisonous gas that a potion gave. Thankfully, with her magic, she had quickly contained it, resulting in only her injury. Only her. How thankful. Chapter 36. Are you okay? Ari asked, her arms around me as her colors were dull in worry. Nodding, I kicked my legs and drank the juice I was given while Dad asked me to step outside. I'm good, I feel better after seeing my dad, I hummed with a smile, my core having been fixed with a few mana stones he had brought with him because he had a feeling. Are we not going to talk about the yelling? Alex asked, staring at the med room behind me while I looked up at him. Apparently the headmaster doesn't tell our parents when we get hurt. He blinked at me before his eyes widened and he looked back to the door, easily gathering what I meant. Does that mean your dad isn't mad at you? Adrian asked, dropping to my other side. The shouting definitely loud, as well as the crashing and on occasion screaming. No, he has a holy beast summons, so he came to see if I was okay after summoning one. I shrugged, humming as James screamed about it being ordered and how he couldn't just go against an elite as he pleased. Oh, he was kinda upset that I haven't been sending him letters. Well, he seemed to calm down after he got my medical records, so, calmed down. Glancing at Ari, who was staring at the door in horror, I nodded. He's not mad at me, I shrugged, taking a drink of juice. A long silence followed. Not even just out here. Blinking, I looked at the door as it clicked open. Dad walked out with a frown and crossed arms. Calling the bloody king, who does he think he is? He rolled his eyes before looking back at where he knew I would be. Blinking in surprise, having not expected more people, he smiled. Hello, I'm Lilith's less attractive parent. Oh, speaking of attractive, your mother said she was sorry she couldn't come, but, well, all things considered, it was best that she didn't. Yep, so, how long is my break? I asked, still sitting while my legs kicked. Adrian's arm, which was around my shoulders, getting a very long stare, that was, until it removed itself from my shoulders. I suppose a month. Unless you would like it any different, make it as short as you like, as long as you like. I couldn't care less, just be back before the end of the term. Oh, right. I could see Alex's finger twitch from the corner of my eye. Edward, the little brat, will be contacting me over what we've agreed to be a major injury from now on. And James did get a pass, as my sweet girl does have manner unrivaled by anyone else. He smiled, ruffled my hair, hand lingering with the white lock for a second longer. Looking to my face as I gave a gentle shake of the head, his grip tightening, but not pulling, before giving a slow, close-eyed smile. Having clearly gathered as much as I had. Don't let your mother know about your face, yes. He poked my nose with a sugary sweet smile. Can't grow new skin, tried. I hummed, taking the edge of his tailcoat in my hand, knowing he was going to leave already. I suppose that makes sense. However, if I tell her I will be getting divorced, he hummed, considering, having halted at my gentle grasp. If you don't tell her, even though you know. I returned, the mocking glare thrown at me childish in comparison to what I know his real one to look like. Also divorced, how tragic. However do I avoid this, my dear? Smiling as he walked right back to me, roughly slamming his foot between me and Adrian, who jumped away very quickly. Even if we weren't acknowledging them, Dad would definitely not forget them. Especially one so close. Tell her not even the king could cool your temple upon finding out. Oh, you know she wouldn't believe that. I love my money more than your face. It was more of a twitch this time. My gaze remained on Alex for a long second, his glare a harsh one, but not one that Dad would even care to look at. Oh, but he didn't offer you money, he likes elites after all. Cute, however, I am more than just Edward's upperclassman. Thinking about it, I held my chin and leaned back, Dad smiling and quirking a brow. Letting me think of something he didn't believe would help his case. Knowing I was merely stalling for an extra minute or two. Well, little one. Vixen, I smiled, his very own smile disappearing at the name. She came to see me, you know. I've made a dragon of my magic, and it was quite startling to all the elites. They got really mad about it. I poked his nose in return, a long less than pleasant hum leaving his lips. My stalling having been a bonus to what I wanted. Well then, money is definitely not enough to stop me over such a thing. Now, I will be back. With that, he removed his foot from between me and Adrian and turned right back into the room. James getting thrown out like a kitten, eyes wide. Falling on his bottom, he looked back inside before looking at me in fear. What did you say to him? I was already leaning back, staring at the ceiling while my legs kicked. Shouting, starting very quickly. Nothing much, but, you know, I've felt a lot of pain here, but I only have so much I can do, right? I smiled just as a startled shout found my ears. Might as well make it a little more even, anyway. I get a whole week off. Imma go sleep. I hummed, hopping to my feet, moving to leave only for Alex caught my arm. Lilith. No, I smiled, patting his chest, not at all in the mood. So, with that, I skipped back to my room humming. A nap sounding very nice. Chapter 37. You were the first group to make it past the 4th day, not to mention the points you racked up. A low whistle found my ears as I sighed at the annoying teacher that had been following me around for my entire free day. I have only had 1 day of my break so far, and she's pestering me for the whole thing. You summoned the white freaking stag. My book snapped shut at that one. My peaceful time in the library was no longer that, leaving me to get to my feet and simply walk away. Lilith Windsor, talk of the teachers, how she took charge of her group, helping the other students without a second thought, how she ran from countless professors without a hitch, forcing her very own hunter to call in backup over a so-called demon she summoned, but after cracking her core and suffering a mana crash, she summoned the holiest beast there ever was. She continued, making me stop and turn to glare at her from over my shoulder. She just grinned at my reaction. Then her father comes in and turns the very school on its head, ruffling the feathers of our very own dean without much effort. Her father that isn't even a war type, leaving the elite to need more than a few healers to recover from whatever it was that he did. What do you want? I snapped, running my hand through my hair with a sigh. You're a glass mage, she stated, making me scoff and continue my way out. She blocked me, earning another glare. Your father's a space mage, narrowing my eyes, the statement a question in its own right. You were born from magic, not from body, clicking my tongue, the conversation going to a place that would end with some blood on my part from an action I would cause. What do you want? I repeated again, the topic not one I haven't heard before, only, I was as unamused by it as my father. The Windsor house is one that supports a single-child tradition. She continued, not getting to the point. Just trying to piss me off. How is it you still look like him? Oh, she really was trying to piss me off. Can you for once in your life just chill the F? You have a cousin as well, I hear he's a rogue, goes to Panther, people talk about how similar you guys look, some questioning that single child, so she didn't dig stuff up, my glare dissipating with a sigh, merely stepping around her. Cutting her off by the action. She was a commoner, a support teacher to a lead she did not like, she wouldn't be able to find out that. So she was talking to someone else, someone that wanted to piss me off. Someone I could guess. Rolling my eyes at the childishness of my dean, I was grabbed by the shoulder, an exasperated Isabel staring at me. Clearly not expecting my quick disposal of the hostile emotions. Look, it's messed up that you're trying to pick a fight with someone more than 10 years younger than you. Topic was definitely a good idea, I'll give you that, but it was my mother that was born a Windsor. She may have stepped down and let my father be the head, but I am perfectly fit for my position. She's only ever had one child, body or magic. So back off, yeah. I knocked the wrist, removing her grip from me with a flat look. You look more like your father. I'm well aware of that fact, it's called a surrogate and it's perfectly acceptable. It doesn't even affect my standing. My mother is my mother and my father is my father. His magic may be incompatible with hers, but that does not change the fact. I pressed, it had been somewhat of a relief that their magic was incompatible to me actually, it removed the risk of being replaced. My brother wasn't of Windsor blood so he couldn't take it either, I was the only one who could. At least get mad, I'm plenty angry as it is now, for the last time, what do you want? I crossed my arms, tucking my book under my arm, and looked her over, the continued pressing even after making me think maybe it wasn't the dean. Edward was probably still licking his ego anyway. Come back to class, before you fall behind, she sighed, earning a skeptical look as I ran my eyes over her defeated self. Who told you about my family situation? I went with instead of acknowledging her sad attempt at being nice. She narrowed her eyes at me before crossing her arms and looking away from me. I found out myself. You did not, the only thing you can do is beat people half your age. I bit at the woman who glared at me for real. A different teacher, she answered honestly, making my brow twitch. The rogue. She jumped at the accusation, making me narrow my eyes. So it was him, huh? It's freaky that you figured that out, you say everything I do is freaky. That's 'cause you're a fucking freaks. How? Why'd you want to make me mad? So you knew that you needed to get back to class. Scoffing again, I turned to leave. She wanted to pick a fight so she could beat me so I would have to get back to class. She wanted to remind me that I was weak. How nice of her. So who was the surrogate? She asked, rushing after me. Ignoring her without a glance, I easily maneuvered the crowd she was apparently not used to. She wasn't a lead teacher, they weren't going to move around her. Wait, hold on, oh for the love of, she was quickly swept into the current while I moved against it with limited difficulties. If you're inspired by Lilith's courage and determination, don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button and join us on our magical journey. Let's grow, explore the unknown, and meet every challenge together.